Question number 79. How would you remix the sound of spaghetti? If someone gave me like a file that was the sound of spaghetti, depending on what the sound of spaghetti actually was, I think it's a weird question, because it implicates that there is like a very like known sound of spaghetti that I'm supposed to recognize, like an easily recognizable sound of spaghetti. And I think it's more like just like, it's like wet stuff. That depends on how wet your spaghetti is, but it is some kind of like wet sound, you know. So how would I remix it? First of all, I'd keep the signal dry, and then I would cut everything up and like rearrange it so that it was only the interesting parts. Yeah, that's how I would do it. Can a banjo fall asleep during a performance, and how would the audience react? I don't think it's possible for a banjo to fall asleep, because I don't think that, like, I think you would have to have a brain in order to fall asleep, and I don't believe that banjos have brains. And so I guess we'll never know how an audience would react to a banjo falling asleep during a concert. Yeah. If a theremin became a therapist, what advice would it give? The nature of the theremin is that it's something. I think maybe a theremin would be a good therapist because of the like ethereal nature of it. Like, it's a instrument that you play basically by not touching it, but it senses where you are in relation to it. So it has like good antennas for, like, it has a good sensoric device, can you say that? And therefore it would give good advice, but the problem is that it would be very hard to understand the advice that the theremin gave, because it would the only way that the theremin can communicate is through like and so I don't think that in particular would help me, for example, like getting better at loving myself, or like having a more down to earth relationship to my parents or something like that. Quit like basic therapy stuff, you know. Okay. Question 82. Describe a pop song sung entirely in fart harmonics. I actually don't know what fart harmonics are. But it would probably be for children. And it would be some kind of animated video on YouTube where there's like a bunch of butts that are singing, but it's farts that are coming out of them, so it's like, but then it's very harmonic. And it would be the kind of video where you saw it and you were like, oh, now they've gone too far, those kids, thinking this is fun. And you would feel alienated as a parent, having to relate to your kids finding fart harmonics funny. Question number 83. How would a flute write a diary entry after a messy rehearsal? Does the flute play itself, or is the flute being played by a human being? Because if so, then I imagine that the flute would be disappointed with its player. If not, the flute would be disappointed with itself. However, it does not actually say that it's a bad rehearsal. I just interpreted it that way. It actually only describes the rehearsal as messy. I don't know what happened that makes the rehearsal messy. Maybe it was even supposed to be that way, and if so, then it would probably be writing about how the rehearsal went well. But as soon as things start getting messy, it's always, at least for me, different to navigate what actually happens or what happened. So it would maybe also be writing a bit about that, like what actually are we doing here? Yeah, questions like that. It would ask itself questions through the diary and maybe even answer some of them, but I'm not a flute, so I can't know for sure. Imagine an orchestra where every music is the opening number. Every music, so all that is like formulated by the orchestra is the opening number, which is often like an overture. So it's like overture upon overture upon overture. And so every piece contains everything that has like been prior, but everything that has been will also kind of predict what is to come, but it's just like variation upon variation upon variation, to a point where you start to realize what's actually happening. And then it was a magnificent concert, and everyone went home happy and told their the love of their life, that how they really felt. And the world became a better place. Can a triangle lead a symphony? In cartoons, yes. In real life, also yes. But you would have to make some my English is not amazing when it comes to the hard words that make a clever sentence. I sometimes come short, I guess, in my vocabulary. But I do believe that a triangle can lead a symphony. But it would have to... The symphony... A triangle cannot make the symphony. It can lead the symphony to where it needs to go. A triangular symphony. How would a xylophone apologize for stepping on a violin? Like this. Ding dong ding dong 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 ding dong. Question number 87. What would a rap battle between a drum machine and a something sound like? Go like and then it's up to you to decide what the other part would sound like. Question number 88. If a tuba went on vacation, what playlist would it take? This one. The best hits of the world. The best hits of the world. The best hits of the world. And let's try to listen to that.
Så tager kunstneren en beslutning om et koncept, men det koncept kan stadig godt manifesteres